What if you woke up tomorrow morning to sirens blaring, emergency alerts flooding your phone, and news anchors announcing that World War III had officially begun? In just 24 hours, the entire world as we know it would be completely unrecognizable. Picture yourself stumbling to your window only to see military jets screaming overhead, leaving contrails that spell doom across the morning sky. Unlike the world wars of the past, this wouldn't be fought with just tanks and soldiers. Modern warfare would unleash technology so advanced and devastating that the first day alone would reshape civilization forever. But here's what would actually happen. Minute by minute, as humanity faces its darkest hour, the war wouldn't start with explosions, it would start in silence. Within the first hour, cyber attacks would cripple power grids across major cities. Imagine entire skyscrapers going dark in seconds, elevators trapping people between floors, and hospital life support systems failing simultaneously. Your internet would die, cell towers would go dark, ATMs would stop working, and traffic lights would flicker out, causing instant chaos on every street. Cars would crash into each other as drivers panic, creating massive traffic jams that block emergency vehicles. The darkness would be absolute and terrifying. But that's not even the scariest part. Stock markets would crash harder than 1929. Within hours, your life savings could vanish completely. Imagine checking your bank account and seeing nothing but zeros. Gas stations would be overwhelmed as desperate people fight over fuel, some even bringing weapons to cut in line. Store shelves would turn into battlegrounds as people grab anything they can carry. Credit cards would stop working as banking systems fail worldwide. Can you imagine a world where money becomes worthless overnight and your neighbor becomes your biggest threat? Here's where things get even stranger. Modern countries import almost everything. Your morning coffee from South America, your phone from Asia, even basic medicines that keep you alive come from overseas. When global shipping stops, shortages would hit immediately. Hospitals would run out of life-saving drugs within days. Cancer patients would lose access to chemotherapy. Diabetics would face insulin shortages. Food would become scarce, not because there isn't enough, but because trucks can't deliver it through war zones. People would start forming armed communities just to survive, turning shopping malls into fortified camps. This is where World War III would be completely different from any war in history. Satellites would be destroyed in space, creating deadly debris fields that make future space travel impossible. Your smartphone would become a useless brick. GPS navigation would disappear forever. Planes would fall from the sky as pilots lose all navigation systems. Drones the size of birds would patrol cities, watching everything, recording faces and marking targets. The sky itself would become a weapon. But the most terrifying weapon wouldn't be conventional bombs. Nuclear weapons would turn entire cities into glass craters within minutes. Imagine New York, London, or Tokyo simply vanishing in blinding flashes of light. The mushroom clouds would rise like monuments to human failure. Radiation would spread across continents, making vast areas uninhabitable for thousands of years. Survivors would develop radiation sickness, losing their hair, vomiting blood, and dying slowly as their bodies shut down. Nuclear winter would follow, blocking sunlight for months and destroying crops worldwide. Artificial intelligence would control entire battlefields. Autonomous weapons would make decisions faster than any human could react. Robot soldiers would march through streets, their red laser eyes scanning for targets. They would never get tired, never feel fear, never question orders, and never show mercy. Within weeks, the war wouldn't even need human soldiers anymore. Machines would be killing machines in an endless cycle of destruction.
Here's what nobody talks about. When basic services collapse, society follows. Police forces would be overwhelmed or simply abandon their posts. Governments would implement martial law, turning democratic countries into military dictatorships overnight. Your neighborhood would become more dangerous than any war zone as desperate people turn to violence for survival. Gangs would control water sources. Your local grocery store might become a fortress defended by armed guards. Schools would close indefinitely. Children would grow up knowing only gunfire and explosions. Can you imagine explaining to a kid what peace used to feel like when they've never experienced a single quiet night? But wait, there's something even worse coming. Modern warfare would destroy more than cities. Chemical plants would explode, creating toxic clouds that kill everything they touch. Rivers would turn black with poison. Nuclear power plants could melt down if power grids stay offline too long, creating disasters worse than Chernobyl across multiple continents. The air itself would become toxic in industrial areas. Breathing would become painful. Farmland would be contaminated with radiation and chemicals. Even if the war ended tomorrow, the environmental damage would last generations, leaving Earth a poisoned wasteland. After 12 months of global conflict, the world map would look completely different. Countries would split apart or merge out of necessity. Entire nations would disappear from existence. New alliances would form based purely on survival. Democracy might become extinct as emergency governments take permanent control. Your vote would become meaningless when military leaders make all decisions at gunpoint. Here's the strangest part. Technology would actually advance faster than ever. War always accelerates innovation. We might develop incredible medical breakthroughs, space technology, and energy solutions, but they'd all be designed for destruction first. If World War III lasted just 2 years, it would set humanity back decades. Entire generations would grow up traumatized. Education systems would focus on survival skills instead of creativity. Art, music, and literature might disappear as culture gets replaced by pure survival instinct. The internet, if it ever came back, would be completely controlled by whoever won the war. But here's what's truly mind-blowing. Throughout history, humanity's greatest leaps forward have come after its darkest moments. After World War III, the survivors would be forced to rebuild everything from scratch. They might create a more fair, sustainable, and peaceful world than we have now. New international laws might actually prevent future wars. Technology could be redesigned for healing instead of harm. Countries might finally work together instead of competing. Fortunately, world leaders understand that World War III would have no winners, only survivors crawling through radioactive ruins. The real question is, what if we're already fighting it right now through cyber attacks, economic warfare, and information battles? But that's a story for another day. What if artificial intelligence decided to start its own war against humanity? That scenario might be closer than you think.